Welcome to another installment of Creative Solutions. I'm Travis Chapman.
I'm Kenneth Vaughn.
And today we're discussing part 3 of our topic. What's ahead of us is greater than everything behind us from the teacher's perspective. And so trying to get into the minds of the teacher because really we know that all students have the ability to be successful, to achieve and to learn. But can teachers move beyond their initial perception of the student to help shift them to the greatness that's within them? And so that's what we're talking about today, because when that student walks into your classroom, are you able to look beyond the sagging pants? Are you able to look beyond skin color? Are you able to look beyond their weight? Are you able to look beyond their hairdo or the clothes that they have on and say, regardless of what I see and what my initial perception of this student is, I'm going to teach them to their highest capacity, and I'm going to assist them in reaching that level of greatness that they deserve?
When I first became assistant principal in Georgia, during the first year, one of our teachers went out. She had cancer. One of the choices that my principal and I discussed was whether or not we were going to bring one of our EIP teachers in, or whether or not I would go in and help teach. Now, let me go through and bring you some background. On a benchmark test, we use a benchmark, we use a Scantron to go through and use a predictive value to determine what we thought the class would get. So based on the prediction, we had about a 57% pass rate, which was horrible. It would have just killed us with our capacity to meet AYP. So one of the things I said was like, listen man, I'll go and teach that class the 90 minutes of math to go through and get us there. And one of the key things that I had was, when I went into the classroom, I said, listen, we're going to be competitive. We're going to go through and beat some other people, because the reality of it is that this is where I see you going. So I would give each student 800, 850, 900 on the math portion of the test, because I saw them differently. But then after I saw that, I told them that that practice had to align with my vision. So where's your perspective at, teachers? Because the reality of it is that it is your job and your responsibility to lead them. We cannot go through and say you lead yourself. If that be the case, they need to do some independent practice. No, when you got that paycheck and when you signed on that dotted line and when you came into the interview, you said that you would move children. So one of the things that I felt that was very important is that when I did that with the students, so we scored 89%, the other teachers in the 3rd grade understood. I can't use no more excuses, babe. Let's go through and get it.
Teachers cannot have so much pride that they're not willing to listen to how they should shift their instructional practices and strategies to the 21st century model. Okay? Whereas the students are engaged. It is only teacher facilitated and the lessons are student centered. That's how they should be shifting. So teachers cannot be so prideful that they're denying the opportunities for their students to experience this 21st century learning. Because if we are in fact concerned with all levels of students learning within the 4 walls of the classroom, then they're going to be willing to listen to master teachers. They're going to be willing to follow the leadership of the instructional leaders that's in the school and say, you know what, I do need to shore up my practices and my strategies so that I can reach all levels of students. Because again, if you say, look at that student's clothes, I'm not going to teach them the way that I'm going to teach this student over here with the type of clothes that I feel like is going to make them be successful. Again, that's that perception piece. So they need to be able to reach all levels of students, from the lowest level student in the classroom to the highest level student in the classroom. Differentiated instruction, all right? Making sure they're mixing up their instructional strategies so that every single child in that classroom is touched, no matter what their economic background is, no matter what their social status is, no matter whether they can communicate rather, or articulate the way that you're used to certain students communicating and articulating. We have to be able to reach all levels of students in the classroom.
Yeah, one of the key things I think you're reiterating is the importance to have a relationship with your students.
Yes.
So here's the thing that I will tell you is, if you have a relationship, or if you love teaching, or you love your students, then what happens is love covers a multitude of things.
Right.
So no matter where your background came from, because if you love that child, you pull them closer towards you, like a mother does, or like a father does, to protect them and to guide them in the way that they're going. So one of the key pieces is you have to have conversations with your students.
Right.
You got to know their learning style. You got to turn around and make sure that they understand that they're more than a score, because then what will happen is they will give you the energy. Energy is typically reciprocal, right, with students. So they reciprocate what you put in. If you've given them the stiff arm, then baby, when it comes down to the state test, guess what they're going to do? They're going to stiff arm you too.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
how are you bringing people in? Because you have to have that perspective. Your past scores do not have to turn around and be where they are. So if you were 70 before, you can get to 80, you can get to 90, but you have to shift some of your practices. You have to be more relational with students so they can understand where you're coming from, where you want them to go, because when you go through and do that, then you and the students start gelling. You and the parents start gelling. You start talking about college and career readiness. You start talking about, I'm not going to let him fall. We're going to get this done together. And when you say that to him or her, right? And when you say that to the classroom, and you shift that paradigm and you shift that culture of the classroom, they don't have no choice but to move, because they can't move backwards.
Right. And it's at that point, teachers, it's at that point that your students realize that their future will outshine their current status or their past. Help them realize their greatness. We're Creative Solutions. I'm Travis Chapman.
I'm Kenneth Vaughn.
Thank you for joining us.